As you are doing well. My apologies for my lateness, but hopefully this means that people who can't normally join us live are able to today. So, with that silver lining in mind, let's talk about a crypto that we've talked about on this channel before, which is Doge. Apologies for that. And the recent run that it has made as of late, and talk about whether a lot of people have, basically counted it as one of the fatalities of the broader crypto world, and it is showing some fight. So let's see, is there still some fight here, or is it just a dead cat bounce? Let's talk about this. So without further ado, let's get started. Not financial advice. Be sure to do your own due diligence before making any investing decisions. Today, we got inflation numbers, and they were basically in line with expectations, and the market basically said, they didn't really care. The expected rate cut is still, the higher probability is still for the rate cut to come sometime in June, and the market is being priced based on this. No significant changes to this prediction have happened. Today, the Bitcoin miners took yet another shellacking in the market. And if you remember yesterday's live, the names at the top are completely different from the names yesterday. So, believe it or not, Stronghold Digital performed the best today. This just goes to show you that you should not be chasing particular names. They will change in terms of the best performers, worst performers from day to day. You should know what you're investing in and hold the line. Don't panic when things are going south. Now, that being said, the actual decline in miners could come from a number of different factors, including them not being the only leveraged play on Bitcoin in town anymore that institutions can get access to. So now with the Bitcoin ETFs, there are other ways to play Bitcoin that previously were not available. And perhaps that has pulled some investing dollars away from Bitcoin miners. All that being said, when the price of Bitcoin goes up, Bitcoin miners are more valuable. This is just a stubborn fact that really can't be argued with. So our expectations for this period is that the price of Bitcoin is going to go up. So in general, I think Bitcoin miners should perform well. The second thing from the drop today in Bitcoin miners is to always take profits. Today we took profits, not from miners. We did that earlier in this week, but we took some profits from Dogecoin and Solana. We'll talk a bit more about that in a second, but we have a plan for this bull run and we're sticking to it. We understand that there's still some upside in both of these cryptos. We haven't sold all of our positions, but we took some profits, which I think is always wise. Today, in terms of the volume that the Bitcoin ETFs experienced, it was the second highest day in terms of volume. And in fact, in this week, the Bitcoin ETFs are on pace to do more than they did in the first month, which is very bullish for Bitcoin. So again, when you have all these indications, it is, I think, not a stretch to conclude that we're not at the top here. There's still some room to run for Bitcoin, and by extension, some of the Bitcoin equity plays that we have in our portfolios. And it's important to emphasize not timing the market. Yes, you may have hindsight bias when there is a pullback and say, oh, I saw this coming, why didn't I move? But guess what? You didn't see it coming. You're suffering from hindsight bias, and it's really all about 10 days. If you look at the previous years and you look at the returns that investors would have had in previous years, they dramatically differ based on whether or not the investor experienced the best 10 days for Bitcoin during that year. So, in the best 10 days, for example, in 2019, Bitcoin returned 217%. If you missed the best 10 days, the remaining 355 days had a return of negative 39%. And this pattern has held for the last many years, and it has held this year as well. So if you're in during the best 10 days in 2024, you were up 52%. If you missed them, you were down 15%. So again, don't try to time the market, especially if you are convinced with the long-term prospects of the asset and you don't need the money. You're holding for the long term. Why try to pick up pennies in front of a steamroller? Really, it is not altcoin season yet. Typically, altcoin season comes after Bitcoin hits an all-time high, and yet we've seen some really head-turning gains for a lot of altcoins. I'm going to talk about one of them, and it's an altcoin that I've spoken about before on this channel, which is Dogecoin. It was up in the last 7 days, close to 40%, at least as of making this live. And Bitcoin, in comparison, was up 18%, not too shabby, but 40% is better. And in fact, the only two altcoins that outperformed Bitcoin, Solana and Dogecoin, are the altcoins that we have in our crypto portfolio that we took some profits from today. So that is good. Now, let's talk about some of the fundamentals behind Dogecoin. If you look at the number of transactions, for example, the number of transactions on the Dogecoin blockchain actually exceeded the number of transactions on Ethereum and on Bitcoin. Now, this is a number of transactions, and it has done so many times during this year. So there are some fundamentals behind this, the king of meme coins, really. It's not just speculation that is playing a role here, although I'm sure speculation is playing a role, as it does with all of crypto and all of investing, really. That said, I think it's important and noteworthy here regarding Dogecoin to appreciate that the recent rally has come with no Elon Musk tweets supporting it. Previously, this has been a crypto that was beholden to, Elon Musk's moods, and this time around, it's actually has a mind of its own. And perhaps I'll go in a deeper dive in a future live. But just to quickly recall some of the fundamentals for Dogecoin, it is, in terms of utility, a medium of exchange, so something that you can make payments with. I've done payments with it. It has faster times and smaller transaction fees than Bitcoin, for example. There are two things that critics tend to mention regarding Dogecoin, which the first one I think is they're actually wrong about. The second one they're right about. The first one is with regards to its inflation rate. Basically, there's no cap on Dogecoin, which is actually a fork of Bitcoin, but there's this one difference, which is that there's no cap on Dogecoin, and they refer to this as basically a reason why it shouldn't have value in the future, and especially when compared to Bitcoin, which has a hard cap of 21 million coins. However, it does have a cap. Dogecoin does have a cap in terms of number of new tokens minted per unit of time. There is a cap there. So there's 5 billion new tokens minted every year. That's the cap. So given this cap, there is a decreasing inflation rate with time. So because the number of overall tokens is increasing 5 billion per year, the inflation that an additional 5 billion brings on per year actually decreases with time. So it is steady, it's predictable, and I think having an inflation rate that is above zero is actually better if you're trying to create a token that is meant as a medium of exchange, because the fact that new tokens are being generated means that people will be willing to part with the ones that they hold, as opposed to Bitcoin, which is a better store of value. People don't want to part with their Bitcoin. They want to hodl it for as long as possible, because after all, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. So as a medium of exchange, I think that the inflation rate of Dogecoin is more attractive. Also, the second criticism that is mentioned about Dogecoin is related to its concentration. So the whales hold a very large amount, a very large percentage of Dogecoin. And that is a valid criticism for Dogecoin. You can't get around that. That being said, Bitcoin is less concentrated, but it's still concentrated when you compare it to something like the dollar, for example. So it is something that needs to be solved for Dogecoin, but it doesn't, I think, completely disqualify it. And from the fact, um, from the fact that new tokens are being issued all the time and there's no cap, over time this concentration should ease. Now, all that being said, this is a very speculative play, right? You shouldn't be investing any money that you're going to need. You should only be investing money that is that you'll be fine if you lose in something like this. And I'm not even saying invest in Dogecoin. No one knows what is going to happen. I have a position in Dogecoin. I've held it for a long time. I haven't been adding to it, and it's actually been in negative territory until recently. I mean, today I took some profits, which was a good feeling, but I've held it for a long time. And so I haven't been adding more, but I've just been hodling. So, I mean, approach this with extreme caution. And with that, if you learn something from this live, then definitely leave a like. I'd appreciate that. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when I go live next. I'll take a few questions. Is it a wise decision for me to buy half of Bitcoin at the price it's currently at? I don't need this money anytime soon. I mean, I can only tell you what I would do. I would probably dollar cost average my way into it, but probably be aggressive with dollar cost averaging, because I do think that the general direction is up. We may experience some pullbacks, but the general direction for the period that we're in is up. And if you don't mind buying in one fell swoop and then it falling 20%, you're okay with that, then I would probably go in one fell swoop. And if you're okay with having bought at a local top, and that's okay because you're going to hold it for a long time, then we'll probably recover very quickly and be off to new all-time highs, inshallah. If I became a PIF member, and I am a very beginner, I'm a full-time driver willing to invest 50,000, will I be able to manage the trades during the day? So we do about, I would say, maybe 2 or 3 trades per week. We're not day traders. So and sometimes we do less than that. But I don't necessarily think that you need to be, definitely don't be trading while you're driving. And also make sure that your income is at a level where you should be focused on, where you should be focused on investing. because the greatest return that you're going to get is from increasing your skill sets and your income earning potential. So focus on that. And once your income is at a level where you're comfortable, then think about investing and becoming a PIF member. But if you're already at that point and you feel like your income is where it needs to be and you're comfortable financially, only then would I start thinking about, okay, let me focus on investing. Uh, if you're not there, I would focus on increasing my income earning potential, because that's where you're going to make the most money in your life. I'm thinking of selling all my BTC and investing in those thoughts. That's very risky. That's very risky. So I'm not going to give you, financial advice, but I just want you to know that that's very risky. So, I mean, if all your money is $100, then that's something that is more palatable than if you actually have, um, or all your BTC is $100, then that's more palatable than if you had like a large amount. Don't, okay, okay. Investing is not about trying to get rich quick, right? Now, I may say that I may give you this, get on my soapbox and give you this lecture, and then tomorrow Doge moons and it goes up 100%. And you're like, oh man, this guy convinced me not to sell all my BTC, and why did I listen to this guy? But I'm just telling you, my the wisdom that I've gained from years of investing is that slow and steady wins the race. Don't try to take shortcuts by taking excessive risks. And ultimately, investing should be enjoyable. So if you're investing and you're like not able to go to sleep, then you're probably taking on too much risk. So make sure you're being wise with the decisions that you're making. Now, having said all this, I'm not saying Bitcoin is necessarily safe, but it is safer than Dogecoin by a lot. So keep that in mind when you're making your decision. So we covered Bitcoin miners. I think they will rebound, inshallah, but there are many market factors influencing it, and the correlation between Bitcoin miners and Bitcoin, while strong, is not perfect. Often there is a lag between the two. Perhaps we'll talk about airdrops in a different live. Clean Spark and I thoughts on keeping long term. So no, for the Bitcoin miners, we are going to be exiting them and parking our profits into Bitcoin, inshallah. That's the plan. Assalamu alaikum, brother. In regards to PLL being Sharia non-compliant on Zoya, do you know why? No, I would have to see actually their reasoning. I have a hunch I know what their reasoning is, but I'll have to see what their reasoning is. It's probably something related to their financials, but yeah, you'll have if you find out the reason, then let me know and I can respond to that. Binary trading, yeah. So binary options, those I believe I covered on this channel. So maybe you can look that up in one of my videos, not one of my lives. But basically, creating risk without an associated asset or service is basically al-maisir. It's gambling. That's what binary options do. You're creating risk. You're just making a bet on the price movement of something. If this happens, then I get paid. If this doesn't happen, I don't get paid or I lose money. That's haram. That's al-maisir, gambling. Stay away from that. It's also a really quick way to lose your money without going to a casino. I mean, at least at a casino, maybe they offer free food or something like that. But with binary trading, you don't get a free meal, and it's also haram and something to stay away from. if I do, not saying, you have to be clear now. Not saying casinos are halal, but you get what I'm trying to say. If I do technical analysis and not do gambling, is it halal? Technical analysis, whatever analysis you do, has no bearing on whether it is halal or haram. And we'll watch my many videos on Al-Macer. I explained that in detail. What's happening here is you're creating risk without offering a product or service. And this is the definition of gambling, the creation of risk with no underlying economic activity. So this is what's happening with binary options, and that's why you should not do them. They are haram. All right. Thanks, Sadim, and good on you for asking. Yani, when you ask, that means your heart is in the right place. You're trying to do the right thing. I hope you guys found this beneficial. Like I said, if you did, leave a like, and I will see you guys next time. Assalamu alaikum, and peace be upon you all.